the same chances as any leopard now. She's just got to stay out of the way of any potential threats. It's a difficult thing to do, but hopefully her mom has taught her well. Lynn, you want to know, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear your name. I think it was Lynn, and good morning to you. You want to know how long until Shongile can start hunting bigger prey. She could now, I think. I think she could. I think she needs to gain confidence and she needs to practice her skills. I think her brother, somewhat surprisingly to me, her brother seems to be doing far better on that front, although he does have the advantage of basically being twice her size. She'll start small, I imagine. Perhaps a baby Inyala that she stumbles upon or something like that. It's difficult because at this time of year there's very few baby antelope around. But a Deka, a Steenbok, she'll get there. I think she could do it now. It's just a matter of having the confidence and the skill to get it right. Now, obviously I'm clutching a souvenir now in the form of a porcupine quill. That is not a creature that Shongile should try and hunt. That would not work out very well for her at all. I find it astounding that in the 2 years that I've worked here, I have found porcupine quills tracks everywhere, burrows, and yet I've never seen one of these things on Djuma. Never seen a porcupine. That would hurt, embedded in one's skin. Definitely not something that you'd want to find. And they shed their quills just like your hair falls out. So this is not a situation where it's been attacked or killed. This is just that it was trailing along and eventually fell out in the same way that hair falls out. Exactly like that. What to do and where to go, I guess. I think I'll take this back as a present for Alice. Oh, we are going to send you across to James, who is roughly 20 meters away from me.
I don't think I'm 20 minutes away, given that unless Jamie has had both of her feet cut off in the last little while, 20 meters away perhaps. They seem to be arriving here faster than 20 minutes. The reason we stopped here was that we found a wonderful example of humanity sitting behind this bush here. There he is, tracking tirelessly, hoping to find some sign of Hosana or Shongile. And Shongile went south, did she? Okay, all right. Well, I think we may as well talk about this tree very briefly because, well, Herbert is sitting in its shade. Herbert, do you know any medicinal uses of this tree? Any medicinal uses that you know of?
Yes.
What?
You can use the roots for blood purification.
For blood purification? Yes. I see. The roots.
The roots.
You boil them?
You boil them and suck the juice.
And suck the juice.
Yes.
Boil them and suck the juice. Well, there you are, everybody. If your blood is in need of purification, find yourself some Senna Petitiana, pick the roots, boil them, and then suck the juice out of them, and your blood will be as pure as winter snow. Good.
Is that Rusty making that noise?
It is Rusty making that noise, yes.
Appears to be rolling back down the hill.
Very slowly, though. We won't worry about that.
Well done, Fergus has got it. It's okay, everybody. Nobody panic.
The other thing that Herbert has found is a bagworm. I'm now stealing, of course, all of Bushwalk's content. Sorry about that. There is a bagworm, and the worm that was the bagworm seems to have absconded somewhere. You can see the end there. This noise that the car is making is deeply irritating. I hope it's not filtering through the sound system. There we go. Fergus has stopped it. So this bagworm is a caterpillar that creates this kind of what looks like a tuft of grass, and therefore pretty inedible to many of the birds, and then it emerges once it is going to be its moth and flies away, lays its eggs, and the caterpillar hatches, and somehow encoded in its remarkable genetic makeup is the ability to create a home for itself out of grass or thorns and silk. Is that amazing? I think it's amazing. Thank you, Herbert. You have provided 2 pieces of wonderful content on a drive where I have failed to find anything at all. Good. On we go.
I've left you with a porcupine bowl.
Thank you. Where? Oh, right.
Yeah, so don't stab yourself.
As I sat down, I thought, goodness gracious, it would be uncomfortable if she'd left this on my seat.
That would have been very mean.
Yes.
All right, have fun.
All right, everyone.
I'll go search for some more content.
That'll be great. Thank you. We're going to head to Arathusa and see what's happening there. I think most of Arathusa is south of us here, looking for Tingana. Well, they've now just found him, unfortunately. And again, if you are a new viewer, this is what I meant by the southern boundary. We cannot go further south from where we are now, and that means that we cannot be following any of the tracks that have gone to the south. Now apparently Byron is still on Chitwa Dam, so let's head across to him and find out if he has managed to find Boris or Vladimir.
James, Vladimir, no, the crocodile. Brent gave all the crocodiles Russian names for some reason. No, so I have found a baby hippo though, that is just sitting on the mother. It's sitting on the mother's back, so every now and then we see its head pop up. Let's just have a look and see. Got to be patient at times with these animals. There we go. Oh, it's almost like waiting for the Loch Ness monster. There we go. Let's try have a closer look there. They are around there. So they're 2 adult hippos, and there's one female that has got the baby on her back. Every now and then the head pops up above the water. Come on, where are you? You could almost see the whole baby earlier. Then they went back under, but I'm sure they're going to pop up soon again. There we go. Right, that's the mother. Where's the little one? Just keep watching there. There we go. See, there's the baby. Look at that. There we go. Just coming up for a quick breath and then down again. But it is popping its head up every now and then. Really beautiful. That's so special to see a baby hippo. They're very, very cute when they're that small. No, I haven't seen any other animals come down to drink. There we go. Look at that, Jennifer. You say it's such a cute little infant. It is. Look at that little guy or girl. That is wonderful. There you can see, I mean, that whole hippo, baby hippo, is about the size of the mother's head. It's tiny. So Jennifer, I think you're 100% right. It's very, very cute. There we go. B, that little one must be probably about this size. Let me show you. Looks like it's probably that big, to be honest. About the size of the head of that adult. Maybe about that length. Not very big at all. Tiny little baby. About that size. I'm just trying to think. I think they only about, how many kilograms when they are born? I'm not sure. It's small. It's like 20 or 30 kilograms, I think. See if I can find something quickly on it. Yeah, between 25 and 50 kilograms exactly. So very small when they are born. Well, I suppose that's actually a rather large baby. 25 to 30 kilogram baby. And I mentioned this earlier. So the females give birth on land, and but not too far from the water, and then they'll take the little one to the safety of the water and keep them very close by. But they do give birth on land. The hippos mate in the water, though, which is quite interesting to see. A tormented zombie, I am assuming that those baby hippo can nurse underwater. I don't actually know. I've never read anything about the nursing of hippo, but I'm sure they can. I'm sure they would be able to nurse underwater. And especially because these hippos spend most of their time, most of the day in the water, those youngsters would definitely get hungry and they would have to feed. So I do think they can nurse underwater. Then obviously when the mothers go off and feed at night, those little ones will stay very, very close to them for safety. Ali, no. Hippos don't breathe underwater. That's why you have their heads popping up. You hear them breathing out and breathing in again and going under. They can't breathe underwater. They're mammals. So there's no chance of that happening. Liz from Wisconsin, you wanted to know what they do underwater. Well, they play chess, Liz. They sit and play card games and chess. No, I'm only joking. Liz, they just sit there. That's all the hippo do, really. They sit under the water and they find an area, and that area that those hippo are in at the moment is probably not that deep. So it's just deep enough that they may submerge, but you'll find they're probably standing or sitting on the bottom of this little dam, and as I said, deep enough for them to submerge, but their heads will pop up. They can breathe every now and then and stay under. The hippo have very sensitive skin, so they don't like being out in the open for very long. And that's why they prefer the water. However, in winter, when the water is much colder and the sun isn't as harsh, they will go and bask on the banks to warm up during the day and return to the water a little bit later again. But they spend most of their time in the water, and then they'll go off and feed at night. So, Liz, to be honest, when they're in the water, they don't do very much at all. They just stay there. Now, I think I'm going to leave Chitwa Dam. We've had a wonderful morning here. Nice to see all this activity and the bird life and that baby hippo. But we're going to see what else we can find. Maybe we come across some elephant. That would be great. Let's head to Jamie on a bushwalk and find out how his search for Shungile is going.
Not that I suppose any of you really needed this advice, but not to stick your hand into termite mound holes. This one is filled with 5 different individual spiders. Is it 5 or is it 4? Count 4. That is not somewhere that arachnophobes would want to be looking. And this is the perfect place because termite mounds attract all sorts of insects due to their warmth, and as a result you find lots and lots of spiders around them. And I think that's why we always see spider hunting wasps around here as well. And you want to know if we get jewel spiders. Did I hear that correctly? What is a jewel spider? And I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure exactly what a jewel spider is. I don't think we get them. Unless it's a colloquial name for, or we've got a different name for a spider that's a jewel spider. I can think of spiders that look like jewels. And Alice tells me it's commonly known as the Christmas spider. And I'm sorry, I don't know. Oh, no. The answer to that is no. Alice, fortunately, who has Google at her fingertips, which of course we do not, apparently they're found in Australia. There's a certain inevitability to that, wasn't there? Speaking about spiders, that if it's a spider that we don't know here in South Africa, it's probably from Australia. So there you go. No, we don't. Unless there are people who've introduced them, but I've certainly never encountered them. So no jewel spiders or Christmas spiders here in South Africa. Australia, I think, tops South Africa in terms of creepy crawlies and other interesting things, snakes and spiders and so on. But we've got our own fair share of particularly interesting eight-legged creatures. And speaking of creatures with legs, there's a bit of a tenuous link, but anyway, there is definitely no sign of Shungile. The reason that we've come wandering all the way along our southern boundary, which isn't the most picturesque part of this reserve, but it is a very, very productive area, is just to see whether or not the baboons that have been alarm calling around here and the presence of Tingana might have caused Shungile to come wandering back onto Djuma itself. And one thing that we have started to learn is her patterns of movement. And essentially, she very frequently goes through Little Gowrie and then pops out here at Twin Dams. So that's what we've come to check. And, just enjoying a morning stroll. Sorry, Fergus. Having to navigate the landscape. No. Not what I thought it was. Still don't have an answer for that mystery track on Philemon's cutline. Alright. Now, we better send you across to Byron, and we'll see you very shortly.
Now, look at this. We've just found a hinged back tortoise. Speaks hinged back tortoise. That is what that is. The carapace is different to that of a leopard tortoise. Can see more elongated. That's a lovely view of it there. And flatter on top as opposed to that round shell of the leopard tortoise. And it looks quite funny walking there. Remember those, like a beach buggy with those very big back tires and small front tires with the rear end up in the air? It looks like one of those cars. The way it's walking around. So they don't get as big as the leopard tortoises. Much smaller species. Always nice to see these tortoises around. And there he goes. Disappeared into the grass. That was a nice surprise. Something different. Little tortoise. They actually moved quite quickly. Did you see that? I mean, he walked this way across the road and then turned and headed back fairly quickly. I wonder which direction we're going to go now. Justin, you asked, could that tortoise beat a hare in a race? I don't know. I suppose it depends on how arrogant the hare is. See some fresh elephant dung around. See if we... Michael, you asked if we could stop by the hyena den. We can indeed Where am I? Michael, I'm going to head straight there actually, and we'll go and see if there's any activity at the hyena den. Squirrel alarm calling. Just looking around. No. It's still fairly cool this morning. It looks like it's gonna. I wonder what's the time? 8 o'clock. Yeah, I always say I wait till 8 o'clock until I make a call on the weather. Looks like it might be a cool day for most of it. Wouldn't it be great to see little honey badgers or something jumping out at the moment, still moving around looking for food? Highly doubt it, but wishful thinking. Joe, so the animals, generally speaking, the animals don't really get named. Well, I really don't like this topic. Joe, so what happens is, like the animals, like the leopard and lion, so the lion prides and the leopards, they do get named because they are animals that are very territorial, and we do get to see them quite regularly, and it's a little bit easier to identify them because there aren't as many around. So like the male lions, for example, those big males, the coalition of four brothers, they've all got certain scars or a tooth that's maybe missing or whatever, or markings on the body that make it easy to identify them. And the same with the leopards. Leopards are solitary and also very territorial, so we know which leopards move around. So they are given names purely for and it's mainly for the guides and that to recognize them, or people that come out here a lot, so they recognize them, they know which areas these animals are moving in. Now, how they get the names, basically the guides will sit and discuss it and come up with the names. Some of the names I think are terrible. Like, there's one leopard known as Quarantine. The poor leopard, what did he do wrong to be named Quarantine? Now, there is that area outside of camp, and I think he was born around the clearings of Quarantine. I think that's where the name comes from. But still, I think it's such a sad name for a leopard. Anyway, the guides in the area, they name them. James will give them names like Barbara, and I don't know what else he comes up with sometimes. Those are never used, though. He is joking. But the guides and people who've worked in the area for a long time, usually I think it's the guide that finds the leopards perhaps for the first time, or the new cubs. They'll be able to think of a name that may be used. But the rest of the animals don't get names, none at all. I tend to lean towards not naming the animals. Don't shout at me, everyone. It's just I've just always guided like that. And believe it or not, when James first taught me, when he was my trainer when I started guiding, he was very much against it too. I've just stuck to that, and James has said that the new age of guiding has changed, and we do create a lot more awareness about conservation for a lot of these animals with some of the names of these specific predators, which I understand, but I prefer to keep it on the wilder side, especially when I'm guiding guests. Doesn't matter where you are or what you see, but if you see a beautiful leopard or a beautiful lion, it's just wonderful to see them. Doesn't matter what the name is or not. It's just nice to see them and appreciate them. But for the purpose of the show, for example, it is important because we see these animals regularly, and it is great to get to know them. Now, I'm going to continue towards the hyena den. Let's go back to Jamie, find out how her walk's going.
My walk is going absolutely swimmingly. And gentlemen out there, wherever you may be, I'd like you to take out your notebooks and take note of this particular little bird's strategy, because I have to tell you, I am head over heels in love with him. He has kept us so entertained. He is absolutely hilarious. There's a little pin-tailed Whydah, and not only is he gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, but he has got all the moves down. Now, there's 2 females that have been hanging out in the trees, and of course, now that we're trying to show you it, he's going to stop what he was doing. But he's been going all out to impress them. He has been dancing, he has been fluttering, he has been showing off that long tail to the absolute best of his ability. And I think, Fergus, he might actually have succeeded. His technique went a little bit awry when he started fluttering around and sort of landed on top of the female without any warning, and I don't think she took kindly to that, and I actually think that is what's caused his current lonely state. But up until then, he was doing a truly fantastic job. He was fluttering, he was trying to hover, and the pin tail split. It sort of spread into a V shape. I've never ever watched the mating display or the courtship display of a pin-tailed Whydah before. But I have to tell you, it is intriguing, to say the least. Come on, mister. Yes, you're very fluffy. You're very fluffy and very beautiful. Now, won't you show everybody what you were doing earlier? And there is always... That's just Murphy's Law. Come on. Come on. If you do it again, maybe the ladies will come back. It was such a spectacular dance. Our consulting detective, you would like to know if this is the bird that hovers. It was hovering. Yes, it was definitely hovering. There are quite a few bird species that do that. And that do hover in one place. Sunbirds often do it, or attempt to stay in one place. Hummingbirds, of course, are the ones that are the best at it. But we don't... Oh, there he goes! He's on the floor now. Oh, he's chasing the lady. Ah, mister, you're making my life difficult. So quite a few birds hover. There might be one that you're thinking of in particular. I'm not quite sure. And I apologize. Perhaps it's something that one of the other guides, one of the other presenters have mentioned. I'm distracted by our gentleman over there now. He's all fluffed up. That female came past. You came in a little bit too strong there, mister. You probably should have let her get used to the idea first. Perhaps bought her dinner. It's the puffing up and the fluffing of himself that's making my day as well. Here's the lady. Oh, this is so hard. Fergus is doing a fantastic job, but this is very difficult. Buddy, you were doing so well, but you got to stop landing on top of the females. And David, you say this is number 31 for your bird list. That is fantastic news. And for our new viewers, what we always do is we encourage you to start a bird list, because it's actually a really lovely way of learning the different birds. It's also kind of like a treasure hunt. That's how I think of birding. It's a sort of, they're not a collectible, that's not quite what I mean, but there's something so fantastic about building up the number of birds that you see, and the satisfaction of seeing something new each time. So definitely I would encourage you all to keep a bird list. He's gone now. Well done, Fergus. Oh, he's coming back. I want to take him home with me. I'm so sold. It's that glorious tail. Know what colour the bird's beak was. It's red. It is red in colour. Now where's he gone? Fergus, have you... Oh, there he is. There he is. And although you won't be able to hear it because we don't actually have an ambient mic of any, well, no real sort of way of getting ambient sound, this entire time while I've been talking and while you've been watching him, he's been standing there, or sitting there going, cheep, 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 cheep. Oh, the female came to him this time, and he flew away. There you go. Sure, I'm making Fergus's life very difficult, and he's doing a marvellous job, but this is not easy on a handheld camera. Okay, I suppose we better tear ourselves away from the pin-tailed Whydah, Fergus. Kirk is starting his bird list right now, and this is his first bird. I'm thrilled to hear it, and I look forward to speaking to you in a year's time or in 2 years' time, whenever it happens to be. Not that we won't speak before then, but when you tell me that it is your 230th bird on your list. That is what I'm looking forward to. But I'm thrilled to hear it, and you know what? It's actually quite a special bird to start your bird list with. Pin-tailed Whydah. I wonder what birds you'll add to your list. Better ask Byron as well. Better ask Byron to add birds to your list. Okay. He seems to have calmed down. The ladies have gone for now. And I guess so should we. Alright, I'm sure you're all curious to know what is happening with James, so what we're going to do is we're going to send you back over to him.
What's happening with us is that we're frantically trying to find one that was around somewhere on Arathusa. Then on our way here, a second flat tire, so we've put on the first dodgy tire, and that's just going to have to suffice for the rest of the morning. Now there were wild dogs around the camp here, around the main Arathusa camp. So we're going to go into around the front of the camp and see if they haven't popped out here, and then we'll head down towards the south. We've got squirrels alarm calling. I don't see any wild dogs at this stage. We'll go up onto the dam wall. Ah, very nice. A taste of India flying past there. We've got some Indian miners found in no other place in the Sabi sand but at Arathusa. We saw a number of different miner species in India. Now, word on the radio that I can hear, which is of course not very much, is that these dogs headed in here. Kat, you want to know what my favourite animal is? Well, we're in search of it right now. Wild dogs are my favourite animals out here. And we might be very lucky and spot some in this drainage line. That's where they were last seen. I don't see any in there now. We'll just have a little stop and listen quickly. Wild dogs at this time of the day, of course, are probably eaten, and so they will most likely be looking for a place to go and lie for most of the day. We'll carry on going. I didn't hear anything there. Cats, I enjoy them because they are, well, they're just a little bit more egalitarian than most of the animals. They like to sort of look after each other. And of course I say that in the knowledge that things like lions are generally not very egalitarian. They don't look after each other. If you get injured or sick in a lion pride, normally you're on your own. And statements like that normally get some people's hackles up. And somebody then sent me a video, the last time I said this, they sent me a wonderful video of a lioness in, I think it was actually the Mara, seemingly helping a much older lioness to feed, opening the carcass, sort of leaving her softer bits of food, which was fascinating. So it doesn't necessarily mean that no other animals are egalitarian in their operations at all, but it's not very common. So we're going to drive along here and see if we don't get lucky. As I say, the radio comms on Arathusa are very difficult, and so I can't tell exactly. I don't think anyone's with them at the moment. And I actually think we're going to drive along this fairly unattractive road because of the power lines, but it could be well worth it. Just keep an eye out and see if they haven't crossed the road. They came into the drainage here and apparently we're heading this way. I don't got no sign of them now. You've got them. Ha! Well done, David. Wild dogs, everybody. Where are they going, Dave? Let's keep going. They're still in. Did they go in there?
Not yet,
Oh, you can still see them there. Well done. Oh, there's a whole pack there in the grass. They look like they might be eating something. Brilliant stuff. Stations relocated this pack on the eastern side of the drainage line as it crosses the power lines. It's just killed. We have hit a very large stump. They've just killed everyone. Oh, this is fantastic. I suspect a Nyala or bushbuck copped it. Ha! Look at that. There they are. Hello, chaps. Very quiet, and as I was saying, cat egalitarian eating. Nobody's fighting over food. Everyone's taken their share off. That looked like a fairly big bone. Let's move slightly closer in. Very helpful if Rusty wouldn't rev quite so high every time we start her. Dee, I'm going to have to ask for your question again. We're just going to quickly see what's going on here. Yeah, I think it's a Nyala. It is a Nyala. Ah, V, you're wondering if they're the same as dingoes or coyotes. They're not the same as dingoes or coyotes. Coyotes are much more like jackals. They're part of the same family. They're all the dog family. But wild dogs are in a genus all of their own, which means they cannot interbreed with things like wolves, domestic dogs, coyotes, or indeed dingoes. And most of those belong to the genus Canis, which is the most common dog genus. Oh, listen to it. And these ones belong to the genus Lycaon. Right. Oh, seems to be a bit of mating behaviour going on there. It's probably two youngsters. Now, Siberia Zumi, I'm afraid I cannot answer this question. You say to me, oh, is this the Investec pack? I have lost track of who's who and how and where. I don't know. I'm afraid it's been so long since I saw the pack this size that I'm not sure which pack it is. Not even sure how many we have here. And of course it's quite difficult to tell with them all knocking about the place, running like they are. But there are a lot of youngsters. I can't see, I don't think, more than 3 adults or so. Here's an adult coming to the left on the left. Oh, hello. I don't think you should climb onto the car. David, I think that dog wants to give you a piece of its breakfast. Wouldn't that be nice? Would you like a piece of nyala for breakfast? Hello, little wild dog. Right, now going back around the side. I was saying that everybody shares and they get their share. Well, they do normally. But they do, once the carcass has been torn apart, there is an element of sort of thievery that goes along. But it seems to be much more good-natured than it is, for example, with lions. After a tremendously quiet morning, this is a brilliant way to kind of come to the climax. Ali, you have asked the same question that Red Riding Hood asked of the big bad wolf. And the answer that the big bad wolf gave to Red Riding Hood is the same. You said, why do wild dogs have such big ears? Well, the answer, Ali, is all the better to hear you with, my dear. The reason they have such big ears is because they use them tremendously to communicate with each other, especially when they're on the hunt. They use sound, and they must have their big ears they use them like satellite dishes, and they pick up the whooping calls that they make when they're on the hunt, and then the chittering and chattering when they do actually kill something. And you know, I think it's given us a huge amount of insight following these dogs on the hunt, following them on the hunt with the drone as opposed to the vehicle, which has allowed us to see that, like that latest research has showed, their hunting is much more random than we ever thought it was before. And those ears, when they bombshell in 100 different directions trying to catch things, play a massively important role in finding each other. And I think, and I'm sort of slightly ashamed to say this, that I think we've made it at times very difficult for them to find each other and follow each other during the hunt because of the vehicles moving behind them. Because their behavior while we were watching them with the drone, I think, was relatively different. You know, they didn't seem to lose each other quite as readily as when we were following them in the cars. This is just brilliant, isn't it wonderful? Of course, dreadful behavior to play with your food like that. And now, I'm still trying to share with David, but David is not interested in taking any food from them. Akib, you want to know how long ago I think they made this kill? I don't think more than 15 minutes ago. I think they lost them coming into the drainage line. I mean, the other game drives. They found a nyala, flushed it, killed it, and within the last 15 minutes they've torn it to pieces, and they're now enjoying the spoils of their kill. This is wonderful stuff. Things will now settle quite nicely, I think. You say, how fast do I think they will devour this prey? Well, I think they're pretty much done, and I think it's probably taken them about 15 minutes or so. They'll eat the last bones and that sort of thing for the next little while, but otherwise it's pretty much done, V. They eat very fast. They bolt their food very quickly. How lucky we are. And it doesn't seem that anybody else wants to come to the sighting, so we won't complain about that at all. We'll be more than happy to have it ourselves. Enjoy the cavorting around that they are engaging in. Davey just next to us, of course. It's your friend who was trying to share with you, but you didn't want to share with him. Not sure why you were so churlish about that. Just one or two monotonous larks still calling in the background. Otherwise all is rather gorgeous peacefulness here. And they're having a great time in front of us now. I imagine, David, filming a wild dog sighting is a little bit like being asked to film butterflies.
More tricky.
They don't sit still for very long. Christina, you want to know if they bark. They don't bark like your garden variety Fido, no, but they do make an alarm bark, which I'm not going to imitate now because that might give them a bit of a fright. But it's sort of loud, and they do it once, so they'll get up and they'll go quite loudly. That's the only barking that they do. When they're communicating with each other, though, there's no barking. It's much more twittering, that sort of twittering sound that you can hear them making now. They do a lot of. Isn't this brilliant? And you can see, I mean, immediately, because they are so active, they're always entertaining to watch. You never find yourself in a situation like you do often with lions, where you wonder if they're actually going to do anything other than lie around. And I don't know, every so often you might just be able to hear them making that kind of woofing sound. Justin, you want to know one of my best wild dog sightings? Well, that's a very easy question to answer. It was a sighting we had on foot here, when Scott was following the dogs down the road and Andrew and I were on bushwalk, and we just our paths happened to coincide. We sort of guessed where the dogs might go, and we went and sat on the road, and they came right past us, Andrew, and the adults looked at us and just carried on going, and then the pups stopped, and they stopped about 2 meters from us and just stopped to look and investigate. One went round the side to smell. I never felt any sense of threat, just a sense of real sort of honor, and it's that, I mean, I do bang on about this, but it's that sort of rare touch that you have with the wilderness, where something completely wild has chosen to come into your space, and it gives you a very rare kind of, a very rare and very strong connection with something so wild, with the wilderness. And so that was definitely the most special wild dog sighting I ever had, even though it only lasted probably less than a minute. Very special indeed that was. Wild dogs on foot are always special, and in fact one of the first big game sightings I ever had on foot was with wild dogs. And April, you say this is your first time seeing the wild dogs live. That's fantastic, April. I'm glad. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. You can see I'm shooting the odd photograph, trying to take a little bit of video, but it's impossible, of course. because these dogs are moving around at such a speed. So I'll probably delete all 7,000 that I've taken so far. You just feel things starting to settle slightly. But these pups love to play. Oh, Nicholas, you say, do they have a hierarchy? Absolutely they do, Nicholas. They live exactly like a wolf pack does. There's an alpha male and an alpha female. They kind of run the pack. They're the only two to breed normally, although sometimes a beta female does give birth. And the rest of them fall into a very strict hierarchy, and there's a definite omega dog. And that hierarchy is sorted not too long after birth, and eventually when they disperse, between 1 and 2 years often, the males will go off together and the females will go off together. They will probably maintain the hierarchy that they've had from birth, and that's set up by playing. Who knows? It's so interesting, you know. It's very interesting actually to watch the same sort of thing happening with human children. Who knows what creates it, or what, you know, what decides the hierarchy? Is it purely strength? Is it when you were born first? Is it some kind of random genetic predisposition to fighting, to being more aggressive? Who knows? But it's always interesting to try and understand how the hierarchy forms, and who fits in as an alpha and who fits in as an omega, because they all, of course, belong to the same parents. So unlike in the human society, for example, where that hurt. In human society, where, you know, kids will often take on the dominance that their parents feel, that doesn't happen with these dogs, because they come from the same parents. And much like a hyena clan, where also the youngsters will take their social status from their mother. It just doesn't happen here, because their mothers, of course, they all have the same mother for all of the pups. So somehow it's either chance or there's some genetic condition or genetic predisposition to being the alpha or the omega. Christina, you say, where are their babies? We're looking at their babies, Christina. We're looking at last year's babies largely. Most of these dogs here are juveniles, or just about yearlings. They'll be just under a year old. And the alpha pair could well be in the process of mating or have mated already. And they will be looking to sort of raise the next generation come the winter time. So these are the youngsters. There won't be any youngsters in a den now. And these youngsters have probably just started becoming particularly useful to hunting. And one of the main reasons I say that, of course, is that we have here, they've killed a pretty, what looks to me like an adult Nyala cow. I mean, it's difficult to say from the little pieces that we've seen, but the one leg looked pretty large. And that would be difficult. If this is, I think there are probably only 3 or 4 adults in this pack. And so, you know, a big Nyala adult, not that easy for them to have killed. So I'm sure these youngsters are making a contribution now. Pug fanatic, you want to know how big the wild dog litters get, and one cannot help but say larger than the pug's litters probably. I've seen litters, I've heard of litters of up to 24 pups, which is obviously enormous, but it's not completely impossible. 18 would be large. Somewhere around 12 to 16 would probably be the norm. I'll actually check for you if you like. I can check exactly what the average is for the Kruger region on my spanky new mammal app. I look at under D for dog, shall I, David? Yes. Yes, good. Let's have a look. Distribution. We want mating habits. Of course, this is not set out very nicely. 7+1, 6 radium. And Michael, you want to know what determines when they disperse from the pack, which is just age, and eventually they hit puberty and they decide that they need to go and sort of leave home and set up life on their own. And mean pack size in the Kruger Park is 13.5 animals plus minus 7, so I mean it is a massive variation there. It's almost impossible to say what the mean is. It doesn't actually give a, I don't think it gives a mean size for the, here we go. Here we go. I'll get onto the dispersal now. Yeah, so they become sexually mature to just under 2 years, and round about then they'll move off. Now I'm just checking in here. Average litter size was 8, interestingly, in the Kruger. 8 plus 2, plus minus 2. I've seldom seen a litter size that small, so I mean that's obviously taken from quite a lot of research, but I'm not sure how modern it is. So yeah, it says 8 here, so maybe it's as much as 10 as the average. I don't think that'll be very average. Well, look at the injury. That's a horrible, horrible injury there. Ooh. That dog has been mangled. Look at the ears as well. That's not a youngster. Look at him. Or her. It's a male. Now, R. Lara Moore, you say, could that be from another wild dog? I don't think so, no. I think that's from something like a lion or a leopard. It may be an injury from hunting. That is an old dog. I'm not sure I've ever seen a dog that old before. Ears mangled. It may even be a skin disease, you know. I don't think so though. I think that's a piece of skin that's been torn off. Very, very skinny back end, losing muscle there. Okay, Byron, while I try and unfold the mysteries here, has managed to find a bird that he can't identify.
I have indeed, James. It's an interesting bird. I don't think I've ever... no, I know I haven't seen it before. I'm trying to think, are they still there? Can you see them, Senzo? Let me just try reposition. I think this is a European honey buzzard. No, I've never seen one before. Did they fly off, Senzo? Did they? Oh, no. Which way? I was trying to look them up. Did they fly back there, or did you see which way they went? Let's have a look if we can still try to find them somewhere around here. There was a pair of them. I'll just try to see. Hang on a second. Let's just have a look. Never seen them before. Wow, it's all happening now. James with those exciting wild dogs. A new bird for me. Oh, man, that is so disappointing that they've flown off. Oh, let me just show you what a European honey buzzard looks like. But that is exactly what we thought it was. No, you don't see them often, like I say. Have a look. That's what it looked like. Can you see them? Beautiful bird. A lot of specks down the front. A yellow eye, very clear yellow eye, very pale. That's exactly what it looked like. A European honey buzzard, 2 of them. Now they do migrate, so I just want to see what time of year they arrive, and uncommon non-breeding Eurasian migrants. So November to April, May. So yeah, they would still be around here then. Let's see where they migrate to. Yeah, medium-sized raptor, which is what it was. I can hear the birds still alarm calling. I think they are still in there somewhere. I just can't see them. Don't know where they went. Wow, that's amazing. They go all the way through to the Mediterranean. They go via Iberia and the Balkans. So up to the Mediterranean, up to Black Sea and Israel. That's amazing. Amazing. They travel quite a distance. Beautiful birds, though. I've never seen them before. I've never seen a honey buzzard. I wish they were still around so we could show them to you. I'm going to look around here because those are not birds that we see often. I'd love to show them to you. I'm sure they are still sitting somewhere around here. Let's quickly go to Jamie on a walk, see if she's on her way back to camp. I'm going to see if I can find these birds.
We were on our way back to camp. We were well on our way back to camp. We've now had to do one very large detour due to one very large buffalo in the middle of the road, who decided he really didn't want us anywhere near him. And so we did a very rapid retreat. And the only concern in those situations is whether or not he's following us. It does occasionally happen, especially when they haven't quite decided what to make of you. They decide to trail on behind. I don't think he's going to follow us, though. It was a bit of a surprise. Around the corner, and there was a buffalo. And they've got this way of looking at you. And I know we've described it as they look at you as if you owe them money. But that's when you're on foot, it's a different look altogether. They look at you as if they're trying to calculate exactly how hard they can smack you, which is very hard indeed. So yeah, we were on our way back to camp. We're now doing a very, very long detour all the way back around. Might need a lift by the end of this. Whew. We've covered most of Djuma, and we've looked in all of the leopards' favourite spots. And there's definitely no sign of any leopards at the moment. Though I'm happy you've had some wild dogs with James. Quite jealous, actually. I haven't seen a wild dog in ages. Whew. The interesting thing about a situation with a buffalo like that is your instinctive, I think a human being's instinctive reaction is to want to duck and hide behind cover immediately. And that's actually one of the worst things that you can do in a situation where buffalo's seen you. Still oxpeckers calling. The buffalo's seen you, but at the same time, he hasn't quite decided what to make of you. And bearing in mind that they're quite short-sighted, and the sight of a human being, the bipedal human shape, does not inspire feelings of love and affection in them. And what it is actually best to do, because they think when you've gone and hidden, or try to hide yourself behind a bush. There's a dove. They think that when you've hidden behind a bush, you're actually trying to hunt them. And that, in turn, can make things far worse for you. So it's actually better to try and move away from them openly, rather than secretively. What are all of these oxpeckers doing here? What are they sitting on? Kudu. That's what they're sitting on. That's okay. Sooner a kudu than a buffalo. Oxpeckers are a very, very important thing to listen and look out for in the bush. As you know, they like to sit on big animals and small animals, but big animals too. I'm trying to see if this dove was sitting on a nest, but I can't see. Don't think so. It was just hiding. No. Found quite a few doves in nests recently. It seems as though there's quite a few birds laying late clutches of eggs. There's sort of final clutch before we go into winter. Let's go and see what Herbie's found for us. Hello, boy. Here we go. Isn't he gorgeous? See, again in this situation, he's going to move away from us, but not fast. Just because we're basically being open about it, rather than trying to hide ourselves away. It doesn't really work when you're dealing with an animal with incredibly acute hearing and an incredibly acute sense of smell. Right, let us carry on our merry way back around to camp. And don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. We would love to hear from you before the end of our sunrise safari. So if you do have any pressing questions you would like to ask, then you can send them through to us in that way. Alice. Sorry. Some interesting moments happening in my ear. But Alice has been doing a fantastic job of directing us this morning. Not an easy thing to do when you've just started, and I imagine keeping us under control. So what I'm going to do, as per request, is I'm going to send you across to Byron.
Thank you, Jamie. Glad you didn't bump into that buffalo too close. No, unfortunately, those birds disappeared. Couldn't find them, but Oh, hang on, lion, look here, everyone. Wow, look at that. Big male. Must be one of the Birmingham males. What a nice surprise. Anyway, I was saying, I'm sure that was a honey buzzard, a European honey buzzard. Let's follow this lion. Oh, look at that. Hey? That is really nice. You can hear some impala alarm calling at him now. He's probably just moving into the shade. Let's see if he might go and lie down. And that's exactly what he's done. Just moved into the shade. There's impala alarm calling very close to him. Hold on. Just position here for us. There we go. Is that alright, Senzo? Can you get him from there? There we go. Lovely view of him. What a nice surprise. Pug's fanatic. When you asked when the lions roar, can we hear that rumble in the ground? Well, that's not, no, I wouldn't say quite in the ground, but you can pick up on the vibrations though. Definitely, it's that loud. If you are close enough, you can definitely feel the vibrations, and when you're sitting in a vehicle, you can hear it indeed. Now just listen for a second. Let's make sure our ambient sounds turned up, but you'll hear this impala alarm calling. It's not too far. I can't see him. He's just behind a tree, probably about 40 meters away. But he's alarm calling at this lion. Let's see if there we go. Do you hear that? It's another snort. So even though he's very close to the lion, his alarm calling, he doesn't want to lose sight of the lion. That's why that impala is standing, alarm calling at the lion. He's warning any other animals that might be around. But as long as he keeps a good eye on the lion, it's unable to stalk and hunt him. That's what the impala thinks. But this male looks quite full. Possibly one of the males that got to feed on that zebra yesterday. Belly does look full. He's panting quite heavily. He's probably walking quite a bit. Like I said, that's the nice thing about winter, or going into winter now. Even though it's almost 9 o'clock, you still get a bit of movement from these predators because it is much cooler. Whereas in summer, when it's very hot, they'll be lying in the shade immediately. Oh, what a nice little surprise at the end of the morning safari. See how it's all happening. James had those wild dogs. This lion's just popped out. I wonder if there aren't any others around. I don't see. I've just seen him. And I'm also not sure if this is the male that was mating with that female the other day. Now, speaking of James and the wild dogs, he's still with them. Let's go see if they're running around.
They are still astoundingly running around, everyone. Having a wonderful time of it. I'm just going to give them a second or two, and then we might just sneak a little bit forward, because they've disappeared across the way there, which has made it, of course, quite difficult to see them. There are some of them in the drainage, and the drainage, for those of you who don't know, is a dry river bed, as opposed to a storm drain or sewer. Not so, David? Yes. No one wants to see wild dogs in a sewer. They are being amazingly playful today. Hello, Mobile Paddy. You say are there different subspecies of wild dogs? Not officially. There might be. I mean, a subspecies is a designation that is based largely, I suppose, on almost guesses by people doing research. It used to be very much based on the phenotype, so what they look like. These days it's based entirely on genetics, and I do not know of any subspecies. I'm just checking that now, though. Yes, it says here the subspeciation of southern and East African wild dogs is unlikely, as genetic exchange appears to have occurred between these populations. So you will find some genetic differentiation between wild dogs around the continent, but it won't be sufficient to call them subspecies. Costa V, you want to know if wild dogs are native to Africa. They are native to nowhere else, Costa V. They're absolutely native to Africa. They're not native to anywhere else but Africa. I suppose one of the most similar species you'd get would be the Indian wild dog or the dhole, but even they are not closely related to the wild dogs. This is just fantastic. They are thrashing around here, having the best time. Full of nyala, and now of course just sorting out the last little bits, and that's playing. I mean, I don't think that dog thinks that he's going to get any nutrition from that piece of nyala leg. There's the old boy with the injury. Now, just before you left us, I said I thought that he had quite a he'd lost sort of muscle definition on his hips, and that he looked a bit weak around there. I think it's just age, which of course brings up how old do they get, and very few wild dogs in the Kruger National Park are more than 5 years old. Lightning Guy, you want to know why they've got white tail tips. Well, Lightning Guy, just about any answer that has to do with why does an animal have white on it out here normally results in us saying, well, it's a following mechanism. In the case of the wild dogs, I really think that is the case. They hunt as a pack. They need to try and maintain some kind of visual communication with each other, and the great big white flag attached to your backside is a really good way of attracting attention. So they can fold them down if they're running, otherwise they can flick that white tail up and it becomes easy for them to see. And interestingly, I have come across one dog in my time that had a black tail tip. He was the alpha male of the very first pack that I came to know. And since then I've never seen another one. So you do get the odd wild dog that has a black tail tip, but just about all of them will have that white tail tip, and I think that's so that they can follow each other when they're hunting. There you are. You can see it. It's not entirely unlike a white-tailed mongoose's tail. Mohammed, you want to know what the closest related dog species would be? I don't know, actually. It would probably be something like a jackal. Again, I will consult the taxonomic notes. Blah, 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 blah. Normally, in the other app that I have, it gives you a cladogram, and a cladogram is quite a nice... it's quite a nice description or pictorial description of how closely related animals are to each other. I'll just have a quick look at it. But I would have said that jackals are probably the most closely related. Alrighty, these dogs have disappeared. We might try and find them again. I don't know if I'll be able to get through this canyon in front of us, but in the meantime, Byron would like to tell you more about his male lion. Ooh, it's bright.
I don't know what more I can tell you, James. He's resting in the shade at the moment. He's definitely more active than those wild... The wild dogs are more active than he is. But I'm not sure how far he's actually moved around. And was he perhaps one of the males that we heard last night? We basically, I'd say southwest of camp. A little bit further west, I would say. And but there were a few lions calling last night, so they were communicating with each other. So I wonder, I don't know if he walked through the property, had a look around, or if this was possibly the male that was, or one of the males that had that zebra kill yesterday. As I said, he has got a very full belly. It does look like he's fed. Rebecca, you say, look at that belly. He has got a full belly. And hopefully, within the next half an hour, I will also have a full belly. It's almost breakfast time for us. Those bacon and eggs that Tristan always teases me about, I know he secretly loves them too. Tristan the teddy bear. Now the impala has moved off. It stopped alarm calling and moved off. See, once they realize that there isn't an actual threat, they'll decide to move off and get out of this area where the predators are. But initially, that alarm call is to try and see if they can persuade the predator to move away, because that constant calling draws attention and they don't like it. But this male lion obviously doesn't mind. He will lie down and rest where he wants. Leopards often will choose to move off because they don't want attention drawn to them. And now, interestingly enough, the impala react differently to the different predators. So because we've seen the wild dog and the lion this morning, it's perfect to speak about them because the impala react differently. They'll, like we saw this impala, was alarm calling at the male lion, stood here, alarm called, didn't move away immediately, watched the lion and then eventually moved off. With the wild dog, however, if an impala sees them, it may give one snort, maybe, but otherwise it runs immediately. They do not stand an alarm call at the wild dog, because the wild dog have a different hunting strategy. They will run down their prey, and they don't stop and wait. They just run through, try and disturb a whole bunch of impala, and get them to scatter, and then they'll work it together as a pack to hunt. So very different. And I'm not sure what those wild dogs fed on this morning. I wonder if it was an impala. But they are very, very efficient hunters. So the impala, as I was saying, they don't alarm call, they don't stick around. They'll just get up, or they'll just maybe give a snort, but then they run immediately. They don't stay for wild dog. The Twitter handle is it Mino name or Nino name? You asked if the wild dogs hunt. No name. Okay. You asked if the wild dogs hunt during the day. Yes, they do. They are classified as diurnal predators. They are mainly active during the day. They don't move around at night very much. There have been areas where it has been recorded where they move around, but they don't hunt. They hunt really at night. They rely on their eyesight. They need to see a lot better. They don't have great nocturnal vision like lions and leopards, so they do hunt during the day. And from my experience following wild dogs, it's early mornings. They're very active. They'll be running, hunting right up till about 10 or 11 o'clock maybe, especially in winter. And then if they weren't that successful in the morning, the afternoons they'll do the same. They'll get up and start moving late afternoon and try and hunt and kill something just before the end of the day. Now, Justin, I've never felt a lion's mane before, but their hair I know is very, very coarse, and that mane would be incredibly coarse and rough. It's not a soft mane at all, not by any means. Now, apparently, Justin, the only big cat with soft fur is a leopard. Now, I've never felt a leopard either, but apparently that's the only big cat with soft fur. I have felt a cheetah. The cheetah has also very coarse hair. It's not soft at all. So I think that's just about us from us for this morning. I'm going to leave this mail, but thanks for joining us. Let's head to James. He's going to close up and finish off.
Indeed we are. We've left the dogs. They crossed over that big canyon, went the other side, and we thought, well, rather than trying to bash our way across with a dodgy tyre, we'd head home for the sweet smells of Amanda's breakfast. And I hope you don't mind. That was a magic way to spend the last hour of our drive. Wonderful wild dogs all to ourselves, which was fantastic. Here we are on the Arathusa International Airstrip. Now, of course, the first time I said that, people were scandalized. They said, how can you have an international airstrip in a game reserve? And the answer is that, of course, it is not an international airstrip at all. It is an airstrip where guests can fly in if they are well heeled enough. I nearly said well endowed enough, but of course that means something else entirely, and has little to do with your ability to fly. Now, with 90 seconds left of the drive, it is important for me to tell you that this afternoon we have two special things happening. Not one, no, but two special things. The first is that it is Draw a Bird Day, the great international festival that, of course, draws its history back to the time when the ancient cavemen drew birds on the caves of Chavaux in France, and doesn't go back to there. I'm not sure why it's International Draw a Bird Day, but I will certainly be drawing a bird because I'm really good at drawing birds. The second thing is that we have a special guest on Drive today. Familiar to some, familiar not so much to others. And so, yes, a special guest on Drive this afternoon. So something to look forward to. Don't go anywhere. Well, you can go away now, but not, of course, when we are live again at 3:30 this afternoon. Thank you for coming on Drive. Thank you, David, for your efforts. A big thank you to Byron and to Jamie and to Herbert and to Fergus and to Senzo, and mostly to all of you for coming on Drive with us today. We will see you later at 3:30. Bye-bye.